every disease, no matter what name it is known by medical science, is constipation, a clogging up of the entire pipe system of the human body. Arnold Ehret, John Rose, big fan of Arnold Ehret, although one must admit that explanation might be a little oversimplified and not nearly explicit enough. In this video, I'm going to take a closer look at the cure for constipation versus the solution for constipation, and there is a difference, as you might imagine. Hopefully this is the very first video you've seen of mine, and you're going to be opening up to a whole new world that helps you understand the whole disease process, and not to focus on the symptom, not to focus on the names that were given to our mistakes that we're making. We shouldn't identify the symptoms from making our mistakes. We should identify the mistakes. So in order to understand the difference between the cure for constipation and the solution for constipation, you have to understand that most of the systems and protocols out there that are trying to help us with our illnesses or disease conditions are part of what I call the art, not part of the science. They are either dealing with the symptom or they're dealing with a subsequent cause. Now, constipation obviously causes a lot of problems, and there are actually quite a few other causes for constipation besides the primary cause. But that's what's interesting. The primary causes a lot of problems, causes a lot of diseases that cause constipation. Then you go to doctors, they give you drugs that causes constipation. But we have to understand the main cause for most people's constipation has everything to do with the bowel transit time of our food. And I'll put a link down below to a video I did on this specifically. We have to understand the bowel transit time of our food. If we're constipated, we're eating foods that have slow bowel transit time. Now, when we talk about constipation, we have to distinguish between mild and severe. We got to take the medical description of what they think constipation is and throw it out the window, because they have no idea. According to them, 3 movements a day, that's normal. 3 movements a week, that's normal. They have no idea about what's going in and what's going out. They have no idea about the eating, pooping connection. I did a video on that also. We have to understand, my friends, that we have a species-specific diet. The food we eat from one day to the next should be out of us. And when we eliminate, it shouldn't be formed. It should be soft, moist, with no form. And yet when you read what the experts say, what do they tell us? It should be well formed. What do they tell us? If we're constipated, you're not drinking enough water. You should be urinating clear water. And your bowel movement should be formed. Thank you, Dr. Mark Hyman. Functional medicine. Yeah, you know what's going on. Yeah, you study the lymph system, don't you? You understand what it means. Asked a medical doctor the other day after I explained to her, our body's nothing but a bunch of cells, 2 fluids, kitchen's the blood, it feeds it, lymph system's the bathroom, it cleans it. This is what doctors don't study, how the bathroom backs up. After I explained all this, and she finished our conversation by dropping that good old I'm the authority card and closing the door on our conversation, I go, well, wait a second, why don't you tell me what you think about what I just said? You guys don't study the lymph system, do you? Oh, yeah, we do. No, you don't. You intentionally did not answer my question. You knew I meant that you don't understand how the lymph system backs up, because that's the other bathroom. When we're constipated, we could have hypercolonic tension and hyperlymphatic tension. Both our bathrooms can be dirty. So, when that happened to me, boy, I tell you, I was fit to be tied. When I spend that much time trying to help somebody understand things, and then they finish the conversation by playing that I'm the authority card, I'm the expert in health, so I don't need to listen to you. After I told them about all the great things this does for people, and then they don't want to discuss it. And when I challenge them on it, I say, well, what do you think? You know, you don't study this, do you? Oh, well, yes, we do. No, I'm not talking about studying the lymph system. I'm talking about, do you understand how the lymph system backs up? If you did, then you would know what I'm talking about. And you'd want to know more. Now, it was interesting how I was so criticized by so many people, not really understanding the whole situation. You know, doctors have a monopoly on our health. We put our trust in these guys. It's their job to know what I know. If someone comes up to a doctor or anybody in any health profession and tells them they have a solution to solve every problem, and that person doesn't want to find out more about them, they're part of the problem. And turns out our medical doctors are the #1 impediment that keeps us where we are, that helps, that #1 impediment that's keeping us in this hell of suffering in the dark ages. Allopathic medicine are agents for the darkest of the dark side of our behavior. The powers that be who rule the world. They have no empathy. They have no creativity. They steal our ideas. They control our educational system so they can misdirect our so-called experts so they can misdirect us. And I'm telling you right now, every doctor out there has a responsibility to know what I know. It's that simple. You're not the average person here. You've been given a monopoly on an industry that should not even exist. We should not have a treatment peddling industry. And it's your job to find the knowledge you're missing. It's your job to open up your mind. And when someone comes up and tells you about something that does amazing things and you don't ask anymore, what is wrong with you? You don't care about people. Oh, I care about people. No, you don't. If you cared about people, you'd want to know everything about what I just said. I know because I talk to lots of people. And I know a lot of people aren't ready for this. And I can respect that. I have no problem with someone telling me to go screw myself and don't want to hear any of it. I understand that. You doctors don't have that privilege. You don't have that privilege. We entrust our health with you guys. You are the #1 impediment that keeps us here because you are the agents of evil Satan people who've twisted your education. And you're keeping us where we are. If this one profession woke up and realized what they're doing, we could take back control of this planet. My whole YouTube channel is about understanding the ultimate tool of control and the absolute tool of control. The ultimate tool of control has to do with our health. Everything in our society of any significance has everything to do with our health. And that's why all of our experts in these fields are misdirected by magicians, con artists, psychopaths, to make sure that they don't find the truth. And they won't be interested in finding the truth. And all they're going to do is treat the symptom. So, is there a cure for constipation? Well, what happens if you go to Ayurvedic medicine? What are they going to tell you? Well, you got to do some colon detoxification. And we have a medicated enema, 10 special herbs that will help clean out your colon. What happens if you go to acupuncture, traditional Chinese medicine? Hey, they got a bunch of herbs too. And they're going to tell you to exercise and diet. But what's the biggest problem that all these systems have that are trying to cure something? Whether it's you take the herbs or whatever, they don't know about the diet. They don't know what precedes the cause. That's knowledge of how to live. Eating foods with the right bowel transit time. You know, if I wanted to make a lot of money, I've got a lot of knowledge to be able to tell a story to motivate you to buy my herbs because you're constipated. And if I wanted to make a bunch of money, I wouldn't tell you about foods with the right bowel transit time, so you go back and eat them and come back and buy more herbs from me. That's why I don't sell any products. I don't even care if it's a good product. I don't want to get involved in selling something I might get biased about because I'm making a lot of money on it. It's not the solution. I said many times, you never apply the art without the science. I have no problems using herbs to help the bowels move if we need to, as long as we understand the bowel transit time of our food. We change that. So if you're constipated, the most important thing you can do is understand the bowel transit time of your food. And the most important thing your body's craving right now is a solid food vacation. In fact, anytime we have any type of dis-ease in any part of our digestive system, no matter if it's in our stomach or our small intestines or large intestines, it doesn't matter. It's your body's way of saying, I'm not happy with what you're eating. Unless you just don't know when to eat it. Because we could be eating the best of foods, but if we eat it when we get stressed, that's not going to work either. Stress is a factor. You can't discount it. And what do most of us do when we get stressed? That's when we turn to food. But it's usually not the right food. But even if you're eating the right food and you're stressed, that can cause problems. And sure, there are some anatomical abnormalities that do come into play. Anal sex is a problem. They say 10 to 30% of women who are constipated were sexually abused. I'm sure it's a problem in the gay community with anal sex. That's got to be causing some problems. I know there's all sorts of problems associated with that habit, if you want to call it that. And as I mentioned before, drugs can cause constipation. Certain conditions cause constipation. But the drugs and the conditions, these are subsequent, well, the conditions are subsequent causes. The drugs are things done to us. So when we got a problem in the third stage of knowledge, we go back to the second stage to look at what we're doing and what's being done to us. Are they giving you any drugs that have symptoms of constipation? A lot of them do. What's the solution? Stop taking the drugs for the other condition, because the solution for one problem is usually a solution for all of them. There's a oneness of disease. Kind of what Arnold Ehret meant when he said there's only one disease. It's constipation, a plugging up of the entire pipe system. Our body's nothing but a bunch of pipes. Now, it's oversimplified, but the concept is solid, and it's why a lot of people say death begins in the colon, because that's one of our bathrooms. Our problems happen because our bathrooms get dirty. And again, we're constipated in our intestines, and we have interstitial constipation in our lymph fluids. And that causes so many problems. And what's interesting about this is I've had lots of conversations with people, and the most common comment I get is, I'm not constipated. I go 3 or 4 times a day. Again, we can either be mildly constipated or severely constipated. People who are severely constipated, I worked with one time, she said, when I was pregnant, I only had one bowel movement in 30 days. A lot of people I work with, they say I only have 1 or 2 a week. And yet, according to our experts, 3 a week is okay. And then I love the one where they say, I'm not constipated. I have 4 or 5 movements a day. And I'm looking at them, and they got this real big belly. I know what's happening. They're shoving food in here, and it's being pushed out down there. It has nothing to do with any type of peristaltic movement. And I guarantee you they've got at least 12 or 15 meals backed up. And even in Arnold Ehret's day, now he died in 1922, it helped to put things in perspective. He said the average person back then had at least up to 10 pounds of waste in their pipes. And close to 100 years ago, 1922, when Ehret died, we didn't know a whole lot about biology, so he came to some interesting conclusions. And yet here we are close to 100 years later, and biology is still not an exact science. I doubt if it ever will be. But we don't want to be focused too much on things that don't matter. It's not that complicated. If you just pay attention to your anatomy, you have limitations. You weren't meant to put food in there. It takes too long to go through the food tube. Most of us are constipated simply because we're eating foods we're not biologically adapted to eat. They've been altered somehow, and as a result, they don't come out of this as fast as they should. When you're eating the food you're designed to eat, everything you ate the day before should be out of you by the morning time. And yet most people have 12, 15 meals backed up. And a lot of them don't think they're constipated because they're going 4 or 5 times a day. But what happens inside the colon, it's only supposed to be a couple inches in diameter, but we've seen autopsies of colons that are 10, 12 inches in diameter. Well, the way muscles work, the filaments, the filaments overlap, so when a muscle works, it contracts. Well, what happens when you pull a muscle? Those filaments no longer touch each other, and that happens down here in our colon. So many times what happens is, if we stretch the colon out, it no longer has any peristaltic action in that area, and that's going to continue to balloon and balloon and balloon. So when you see people with really big bellies, that's what's going on in their bellies. They got huge ballooned out sections in their pipes. And they could be going to the bathroom every day, 4 or 5 times every day. Every time they put more food in, it reminds me of that old ice cream treat we used to eat as a kid. It was an orange sherbet. It's called a push-up. It was a round cylinder with a stick on the end of it, and you pushed it up, and the orange sherbet would come up. That's how people are having bowel movements nowadays. Just keep shoving it down, and it's going to be forced out. No peristaltic action at all. So, what is the solution? Is there a cure? There are no cures. Cures only belong in a black bag. It's a magic box, magic bag. Remember, that's what doctors are doing to us. It's black magic, it's poison. There are no chemical solutions for lifestyle-related problems. That's a black bag of black magic. And there are no cures in that bag. There are no solutions inside their box. The solutions, the constipation is the same solution to everything else. It's outside their box. They don't have any solutions inside their box. They can't think outside the box. They've been put in there for a reason. To make sure they take the first step the wrong way and focus on the symptom. So, there is a solution. A simple solution to this, as long as you haven't been damaged in a way. And hopefully, if you have, it can be repaired. The body's amazing once we feed it the right food. And for every organ of every body, the way it heals is by resting. That's the beauty of taking a solid food vacation, either on water or juices. The biggest problem with taking those solid food vacations is that the organs of elimination will actually be increased. And if that happens to be where your problems are at, then it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge for you to take that solid food vacation and support those organs so that you can finally give them a rest. That's why it's so important to go the distance on a solid food vacation. Go until you stop getting rid of all that stuff. You might need to keep going if you need to heal something. What would you do if you scratched your arm and you wanted to heal it? First thing, you clean it, you keep it clean. So if anything is damaged down in our pipe system down there, how's it going to heal if we keep putting food down through it? It can't, can it? That's why we got to clean everything out, give it a chance to rest, understand that constipation is a symptom and the primary cause always goes back to our food and other lifestyle choices. You can't expect to not exercise and see the consequences of that. And the solution isn't like Mark Hyman thinks, just drink a lot of water, make sure your urine is clear. He doesn't understand how the lymph system filters. And we're not supposed to have well-formed bowel movements. That just goes to show you how so many people want to accept poppycock because they're eating the wrong food. This information's got to be right. My bowel movements are formed because you're eating animals. Mark Hyman says the problem with constipation is the body's just too good at sucking out water. No, it's not. It's not too good at sucking out water. Or we get constipated whenever we eat food that takes too long to go through the food tube because that's what it's supposed to do, suck out the water. The problem is it's not supposed to be in there for 3 days. It's only supposed to be in there for a short period of time. And that's the trick to understanding the solution for constipation. You don't take the herbs or the enema unless you change the bowel transit time of your food. And if you're suffering from constipation and you want a solution for that, and you can find out the foods that have the right bowel transit times, fruits and vegetables, and you take a solid food vacation to start that off, and then you eat the right foods, I guarantee you no more constipation, and yippee! That's what I call a treat.